Welcome to another episode of the Robinson Hewitt Pod. I'm your host, Alison Mackie, founder of Robinson Hewitt Consulting. I'm an anthropologist, an awarded governance director, and futurist. So today, I typically tend to host things or do something really special for International Women's Day. And because this whole consulting business is built off the brains of women and our intuition and our foresight, I thought I would do something special today and do a sort of 21 questions. So typically, I tend to interview people. In the past, I used to MC quite a lot of conferences and things like that. But today, I thought I would interview myself and talk about my own sort of journey and my own thoughts and feelings about technology and the future and things like that. So I thought it would be a little bit playful, a little bit fun, special episode. Let's get into it. So before everything, I always have to do this. Robinson Hewitt Consulting. We're here to transform the traditional with the unseen for the next era of innovation and ideas. We bridge the gap between the digital and human, blending technology strategy and future systems thinking with applied ethnographic research to enable human-centered innovation and transformation. A little bit interesting, isn't it? So even before we get into my own questions, I thought I would tell you a little bit of a background of the name Robinson Hewitt. So this is a combination of three women in my own lineage and their maternal names. So that's Robbins, Robson, and Hewitt. And I thought it was really important to kind of, so many big consulting companies are always like men's names. And I just thought, you know what, if I'm ever going to have the women's names in my life, I should do it building something. And so it's an honor to them. So one of them was a musician, the next was a suffragette, and one was a seamstress. The one that was a suffragette was actually my great-grandmother, and she was the one of the first women to sign the suffragettes movement to get women the right to vote in Christchurch in New Zealand in, I think it was 1893. So a whole 100 years before I was born, and she was pregnant with my grandpa. So go Kate Clemens. Original name was Robbins. Anyway, so I thought, let's get into it. I'll MC myself and we'll talk about my own journey into technology and being a woman in business, I guess. So the first thing, so I know it's really bad to still be using ChatGPT, but I used it for this specific thing because I was like, hey, you know everything about me. What questions would you ask? And so I did, I prompted it in. And so these are the fun questions that we got. So how did someone with a humanities background accidentally end up in emerging technology? I don't know if I accidentally ended up in emerging technology, but it wasn't on my radar for a long time. I was interested in technology. I think I've said this in a previous webinar 13 years ago when the movie Her came out. I was so enamored by this idea and this concept of like having an AI operating system and this concept of falling in love with an AI OS is what I used to call it back in the day. And I think that was the beginning of it. And then I just always wanted something to apply my anthropology degree into, but didn't know where that sat in general. I don't know. I think it's like a limiting belief that you're always told when you study arts and have a humanities background that it's useless. And I'm so defiant and I'm so like, get fucked that like I really just wanted to prove people wrong. I think that was it. And I think I always like to be on the cutting edge of things. And so I don't think it was an accident. I think it was meant to be. And every time I try to run away from emerging technology, it seems to rub me back in. So I think I'm stuck here. Two, what's the most unexpected thing about working in tech that people wouldn't guess? I think the thing for me is the amount of how, okay, so I have this theory, a working theory that I've been researching for years. I believe a lot of tech founders are actually quite intuitive and like slightly psychic. And I think that's what I've come across. And the amount of synchronicities that I've seen of founders and like boys and girls, like it doesn't matter who you are, like the amount of times I've had people say spooky things, I'm like, yeah, that was from somewhere else, like 100%. So that's what I would think some unexpected things people wouldn't guess. I think that people are like so tapped into something beyond the scene, right? Number 3, if someone asked what I actually do for work, how would I explain it without using any buzzwords? I think what I do is I help people bring ideas to life. And I like to think of it as like a soundboard rather than like telling someone what to do. I think the way I approach consulting is completely different to like a traditional system. I try to make it really fun and accessible and make you not like feel like a founder's journey is like a doomsday thing. And if you're inventing things, it should be fun as well, especially in tech. Yeah. What's one moment in my career where I thought, how on earth did I end up here? So this was back in 2019, and I was in Hong Kong. And there's so many moments where I've had, what the hell is happening? But one specifically, I was in Hong Kong and I was at a VIP dinner with like CEOs of like water companies and things like that. And I I had just presented a bunch of my work. Like I was like speaking at the conference, and that was one of those like pinch me moments of like, what is happening? On the flip side of that, though, this was during the protests. And so it was quite this like stark contrast of like, people fighting for their freedoms. And I'm like sitting, getting drunk at a VIP dinner. It was one of those moments of like, oh, there's such contrast here. And I need to find the balance between them both. Into the next section. This is personality and work style. So number 5, what kind of problems make me lose track of time because they're so interesting? I think it's definitely like coming up with new ideas of doing something, or trying to make people think a little bit bigger and a little bit differently, and rewiring people's neural pathways. I think that's the most interesting thing for me. That's definitely like coming up with like analogies and using movies to kind of help bridge that gap is like so fun for me. And yeah, thinking about what would a different version of Earth, how would they be solving a problem? That's where I can get lost, and that's where I can kind of spend my days thinking. I love it. What's something about the tech industry that secretly fascinates me? I think I might. There's a thing of like power and control that I'm fascinated by. I have a real love for, like, my entire life I've been fascinated by corrupted power, and like how do people get there? I don't know why, but I think that's the thing of like, I think when you see things from a bird's eye perspective, it's interesting to think about how no idea is like truly original, and who it's like the chicken and the egg. Who came up with the idea first? Was it the idea that found the founder, or is it the founder that found the idea? And I think that's the thing that fascinates me. Who owns the idea? What is intellectual property? And I have this other thing of like, are you so egoic to think that I don't know, it's like a whole deep dive, but I get really interested in like how tightly some people are with their ideas in technology. And I think this is why I've become a huge fan of one company at the moment, because there's just so open access and like putting all the cards on the table at the moment, and I love it. Stephen, what's something about the tech industry that makes me raise an eyebrow? Again, corruption of power. And what do you do when you gain power? Are you going to hoard it all, or are you going to distribute that wealth? And I think that's the thing that makes me really interested of like, I don't know. I think we're at a turning point, and I'm interested to see where things keep fracturing and who uses that gap of the fractures as an opening to kind of come through, I guess. I don't know. 8. If my job had a warning label, what would it say? Prepare to be underestimated. Women in tech. So 9. Did I always imagine myself working in technology, or did life just lead me here? When I was younger, I never had the intention of working in technology. I always knew that I wanted to do leadership. I always knew I was built for a different type of leadership style, and governance. I've always been interested in governance and like strategy. That's been embedded in me forever. But technology was something else. technology kind of, I believe it intercepts life at every stage. And so I don't know, I have had this like real problem over the past few years of like separating myself from technology. And so I've been on a whole identity journey over the past 2 years since I've quit corporate life and moved into my own work, to kind of separate the two. And it's hard. So I think it's just been the most organic relationship of my life. Um, a little bit codependent at times, but I think I don't know who I am without technology, to be honest, because I think I see it from such a different perspective and I see it from such a human lens. And if I can keep advocating for the human in the loop, as people say, then I'll be happy with where I'm at right now in technology. Number 10, what's one myth about women in tech I wish we'd retire already? I think I'm really over the whole trope of how do we get men to listen? And it's like, you just do what you need to do. And it's like, oh my God, I was just watching My Big Fat Greek Wedding the other night. And it's so funny. The mother was saying like the man is the head, but the woman is the neck. And I think that's so true. If you just like go in your own direction and you just, I mean, I've definitely, so starting up young and being, I don't know, just being young and a people pleaser in my past, I think it was quite easy to kind of fall into that trope of like, why aren't you listening? And I think the biggest turning point for me was just do it yourself. You can just do it yourself. You can build something by yourself, and you don't have to care anymore if people are listening or changing, right? They will have to change at some point, and you're just ahead of the curve. And in time, people will see, if you timestamp all your stuff, people will be able to see that you're right all along. So that's one thing I wish people would retire, is stop chasing the old way of doing things and start future facing and doing it yourself. And um, yeah, that's kind of the big thing. It's kind of like a relationship, really. Like, why would you chase someone that doesn't want you? It's kind of the same idea. Number 11, what strengths do women or people from unconventional backgrounds often bring to the tech world? Number one, intuition. For me, it's always like, that's number one, that ability to kind of tap into something that is beyond just logic, beyond just emotion. And I don't know, like tapping into something deeper is something I think is really useful. And getting, I think as well, not just women, but just like from different perspectives and different backgrounds. I think it's so important to have different eyes on things, right? And like, if you want different, do different, right? And so that's why I think having a humanities background has definitely played to my strengths throughout my career. But I also think being a woman and going through, so like, this is so silly, but if you think about it from like an energy perspective and like a cyclical perspective, like women's energy cycles go on a 28-day cycle, men's is 24 hours. And I think that's something that's quite important to remember, that there is a huge difference there. And I think, we're so tapped into the moon. If we follow the moon cycle, and I think that that's like not talked about, and it's something I would love people to do research on. And how does that change technology as well? I don't know. I think there's something fascinating that we'll see in the coming decades or years to come, thinking about that. But anyways, that's like a whole deep dive. Number 12, what advice would I give to a young woman who's curious about tech but thinks she doesn't belong there? Tech belongs to everybody. Everybody uses technology every single day, and the people that are building technology should belong to all different types of people and different groups of people, right? And I think that if you use technology, you belong in the tech world as well. And don't let anyone tell you that you don't. And I think, even if and this is like something I always like think about. Years ago, I hosted a workshop on governance and strategy and things like that for like young directors and things like that. And I just the target demographic, you would want it to be like, just young people, but it was all the same. Like, you literally copy paste people, and it was like, type A control freaks. And like, just like the sort of people that would end up in leadership positions, like in a traditional sense. And my perspective is if we want to build a future for everybody, everyone needs a seat at the table. And I feel like it's just open the door and then knock. And if the door is like not opening and no one's letting you in, create your own. Build your own house. Start it yourself. I truly believe that we have so many resources available, open to us. I'm literally sitting. So there is drilling outside my apartment at the moment, and so I'm sitting in my bathroom recording this. And I've built this system in a way so that I can record anywhere that I want to, so that I can share a message whenever I need to. And I think that's the thing. The only boundaries between you and your goals is your own mind, and other people's perspectives don't matter. If they tell you no, do it yourself. You can do it yourself. If you have the internet, you have a laptop, you have a phone, you can do everything for free. Like literally, there's so many resources available for free. If you want to start your own tech company, just start. Don't wait for someone to invite you in. Do it yourself. Or this is your invitation to start. Curiosity and big ideas. Number 13. What technology trend right now genuinely excites me? I have this thing, okay, like I come from a sort of blockchain background as well as IoT, and like I do a lot. My background in tech is quite diverse, but I've been working on this idea behind the scenes for years, and people are starting to pick up on it now, but decentralized finance when it comes to AI and ambient AI, and this idea of embedding stable coins or a CBDC or a digital currency, not cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is too volatile for my liking, but a stable coin embedded into ambient AI, I think is like incredibly smart. And I think we're still not ready for it. I feel like we still need a lot of safe rails and safeguards, and so much regulation work needs to be done behind the scenes when it comes to that. But I feel like if you can create like systems of automation with finance, and I think that's like the next level, and that really fascinates me. And coming from someone that's done a lot of regulatory work behind DeFi, I think this is something that we need to consider. And I think yeah, I don't know. I think that's like a whole I should do a whole session on that because it's fascinating. The blending of blockchain and AI and IoT, that trifecta, those three together, that's key. Data, you have synthesizing of data as well as intelligence, but also the security from blockchain just decentralized technology in general is paramount. So that's what really excites me at the moment, is that integration of finance. Once you have finance, everything opens up. Number 14. So I got really sidetracked with that. Number 14. What technology trend makes me think, we should slow down and think about this? I'm going to just say two words: defense tech. Moving on. 15. If we could ask the entire tech industry one question, what would it be? Who's making the decisions and why? Is this the future that we want? Should we slow down for a sec? I just think that like where's the money coming from as well? Who's paying who for what? And yeah, I don't know. There's so many things. I really don't want a lawsuit. Okay, so quick fire round. Oh my God, I love these questions. These are really good questions. So 16, coffee meeting with any thinker in history to discuss technology. Who would it be? Nikola Tesla, hands down. I want to know how he did things. I think I have my own approach. We have a very similar approach to inventing things and coming up with ideas and how to use your mind to extract knowledge and play with things. I would love to sit down and have, I feel like it's, yeah, have like a chat. But I would also love Jane Goodall. And Elmer F. Clint. And oh my God, there's so many people, but big thinkers, people that blend like consciousness with science and maths as well as art and that sort of thing. I just have like a soft spot for that. So I don't know if that answered that question well. That wasn't a fast question. Number 17, a book that changed how I think about the future. I am actually rereading Autobiography of a Yogi, by Yogananda. I read that when I was, oh my God, I can't remember how old it was. It was 2019, and this is when I started developing decentralized water systems and did that whole thing. And that totally transformed how I view how do you build things. And I think, there's a reason why Steve Jobs had that book as the only book on his iPad. And I'm rereading it now, and it's actually quite incredible rereading it and having built a new business and taking time off to go on a spiritual journey and an identity journey as well, I think has been quite impressive. And I don't know, I think there's something really grounding about that book, but also expansive at the same time. It's wild. 18, a hill I will absolutely die on when it comes to technology and society. That technology is, you choose the outcome. Like we can choose how we get to where we're going. And the hill that I will die on is that it's not, I'm really over this like fear mongering when it comes to taking your jobs. I've always said this, and I said this way before AI was like a big thing that people were talking about. I said, if you think that you're terrified of technology taking your job, you do not know your worth and you do not know your value. Find your purpose first and be amenable. Like, be open to changing, to shifting, and learning who you are. I feel like where we're going, you need to take a look at yourself and why are you scared of losing your job? What's the big fear behind that? Once you work through that, golden. Yeah. But yeah, when it comes to technology and society, I feel like technology and humanity are intertwined now. And I feel like if we see technology as a resource to helping us become more human, I feel like that's where we will aces or everything will be great. Number 19, the weirdest or most unexpected opportunity that has come from my career. Oh my God, I've had some pretty wild moments in my career. Like, I've been in rooms where I'm like, how am I talking to you? In terms of unexpected opportunities, I think it's just being able to be myself. And I think this is my big unexpected opportunity, was that I could build something on my own and build something where I feel proud to kind of be let my freak flag fly and be like, hey, I like to think about the future, and like sometimes my sort of projections come true, guys. Like sometimes they come true, and sometimes within the same week they come true. Sometimes it can take 2 years, sometimes it takes 13 years, but at the end of the day, like I feel really proud to kind of build something that is mine. And I think that's so brilliant. And technology is part of that. So, yeah. Okay, so the final two questions. Number 20, what has surprised me most about my own career path? I think, honestly, if you were to look at, I have like my founder's journey on my website. And I think the funny thing is that surprised me the most is how everything was relevant. Every life experience I've ever had has come into play with my career and setting up something for myself. And it's so funny. Even watching a movie can inspire me. And I think that also surprises me too. And I think everything's connected. And if you can just like take a moment to connect all the dots in your own life story, and if you have like a feeling or a pull that you're supposed to be doing something bigger, or you want to build something, you want to be seen, like you just reflect back on your life. Think about the things that are popping out to you and connect the dots. Start seeing where they all kind of fall in together. Your own little puzzle pieces of your life story, and see how it fits. Because I never thought that I would be able to blend everything together and create something where I'm genuinely excited by. Is it ready yet? No, not 100%. I'm still working on things, but the foundations are there, and I'm so excited by that. But um, yeah, I don't know. I think that's the thing that surprised me the most, how everything's just like being relevant. And even if I thought it wasn't, it totally was. And every experience was so useful and meaningful. And it's just sometimes you have to take the bird's eye perspective and just like, sometimes you need to cut your losses with some things. Some things aren't worth the fight as well. That was a big lesson for me. Some things that just aren't worth the fight. You'll, what's that saying? It's like, but we'll get them in the end. Anyways, so final question, number 21. What would I tell someone who feels like they're still figuring everything out? Same as before, connect the dots. I also think that it's a marathon, not a sprint. I have that crawl, walk, run strategy that I love. It's on my website. And I think if you like, the whole thing is the journey. Everything is about the journey. It isn't about getting to the destination. I had this opportunity to do so much earlier in my life, but I don't think I was ready. And one of the most poignant advice I've ever received was being told to get lost. Like, really, like, learn how to lose direction and figure out how to get back on track from that, because you know everything's done through Google Maps these days, and sometimes the joy of life is not actually ending up in the destination. It is walking through the streets, taking photos, and finding new spots, finding new things, watching people. That's half the fun of it. And there's definitely points in time where in me getting lost has like been a bit touch and go, but I feel like that is part of the figuring it out. And that's where you find yourself the most. So it will always work out in the end. As long as you know where you're going, as long as you know what you're looking for, where you want to go, that feeling, you'll be fine. And it doesn't matter if you feel like you've taken 10 like wrong turns. You can just hit pause on your mind and just say, oh, whoopsie, got lost. I'll figure it out. The next step will show me the way. It may take some time, and that's okay. You'll get back on track soon. And so that was my 21 questions. I hope you enjoyed it. But one final question that I would like you to reflect on as well is, if the next generation of women in technology, or anyone who is building the next era that is built on something that is a little bit more, I don't know, intuitive, I guess, what is one thing, one idea we can take forward into the future? What would you hope it is? For me personally, I think it is looking backwards is sometimes the key to moving forwards. Not all the time, but a lot of my big ideas have come from looking at women like Ada Lovelace and Jane Goodall and Ilma Offklint, the people that blended intuition and science and art and, used imagination to kind of bring forth new ideas. I think that's the one thing I hope we can bring into the future is imagination is key. And sometimes you can find all the answers in a movie as well. So that is the 21 questions or 22 questions. So find more about Robinson-Hewitt Consulting. We are here to build the next era. We work at the intersection of anthropology, emerging technology, and long-term systems change. We help future-facing leaders, founders, and businesses transform, evolve, and build the next era. You can start your journey with us. If you're still orienting, we have a few, for the curious, resources on our website. We have the Founder's Journey so that you can tell your own Founder's Journey, as well as a future-facing framework to help steer you towards the North Star that we're all trying to build. If you're ready to take the leap, you can check out our services. We do strategic redesign projects, advisory retainers, as well as future-facing workshops. So be inspired, transform, visit our website for resources, insights, and next steps. And I will see you in the next one. Ciao.